because I love being on stage. I love the attention. So that was a big thing for me, was being on stage. It gave me a real high just being up on stage, and made me feel like I'm a regular everyday person. You know what I mean?
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm a physician, mom, life coach, musician, author, publisher, and I am passionate about using storytelling as a tool to help you reclaim your story and build your most beautiful future. Now, today on this special guest episode of Talks with Dr. Shafer, in celebration of Autism Acceptance Month, I am very excited to have friend of the show here, the entertainment man, Chris B. Chris B is the founder of ChrisBontheWeb Media, the creator of the Entertainment Man podcast, and an outspoken advocate for mental health. As a person diagnosed with autism in his childhood, Chris B has worked to bring awareness to life with autism and also highlight all of the diversity that can be found in the neurodivergent community. I'm so grateful that Chris B is here today to share his inspiring story and educate us about his life and his goals for the future. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
No problem. It's good to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you on the show, Chris. I really enjoy listening to your podcast and watching everything that you're doing. When we were off camera, I was talking to you about some goals for our discussion today because, you're a coach now. And I'm a coach, and it's, you don't necessarily want to come into life with too much of an agenda because you miss out on things. But I do want to make sure that we capture in our conversation your entrepreneurial and creative spirit that you really bring to everything that you do.
Yeah, because recently I just started doing. Well, I don't have any clients yet, but I've been working on it and gonna start promoting it a little bit more. But it's just been a whirlwind. Like before, I think it was like a 2 or 3 weeks ago almost. I was with my friends here in the studio. Like my friend, he wanted to see the setup and what it looks like in here, and it's completely changed over the last while. That same day, that's when I started going viral on YouTube. Like I was getting like over 1,000 views on my shorts. I'm like, what is going on? And also my numbers, I was like at 36 subs. Now I'm at like 104, I think it is now. Last I checked.
Awesome.
So it's amazing how fast growth can really happen. And that means, and hard work does pay off too, right?
You've been working hard, by the way, for a long time, 20 years now, I believe.
As of December 9th will be 20 years. So it's coming quick because this year's gone so fast.
It really has. It really has. What do you think is behind that feeling of time just sprinting by this year?
I think it's just we're all busy, and Easter just approaching now, and I think it's just, I don't know, it just seems like the days are going fast. They're really, really, really fast, and it's just, I wish it would slow down a little bit, because I'm not ready to turn 40, that's for sure, because 40's creeping up on me.
Oh, 40s are fabulous, though. I have to say, as someone in their 40s, 40s are fabulous. You do not need to fear them. They are very fruitful and fantastic. And I'm using every F word that I can to try to reinforce how amazing they are.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Chris, you have your podcast, the Entertainment Man podcast, your media company, ChrisBontheWeb Media, your newsletter, and the advocacy work you do, as well as coaching. You are doing so much. And you've been really open about the fact that in your lifetime, you've coped with anxiety. And you also find yourself to be a person who really thinks deeply and constantly about everything that you're doing. And you've mentioned how time is going so fast.
Yeah.
How do you try to avoid burnout when you have so much on your plate and you know that you have this history and present of coping with anxiety? How do you stay on the healthy side and manage all of these different things you're doing?
I have my whiteboard right next to me here, so it really does help. I write notes down and any reminders that I need to do. And I've been doing the little sticky notes, and I've been sticking them to the whiteboard, and just as a reminder, like for podcast ideas. I'm now getting a few other guests coming back on the podcast, so it's just I have sticky notes there. There's this one. That's my sticky notes there. I have like almost 10 of them. Like I use the sticky notes there, and I also use my sticky note system on my computer too. It's just like it's like a constant reminder every day I look, like, okay, I gotta get that done. But I use my scheduling, so that really does help me cope with it. And I try to take Sundays off. And with Easter, I'm going to be taking 2 days off, the Sunday and the Monday, just to have a day, just to relax and do nothing. And I'm probably going to be playing video games, I'm sure. I'm probably going to be hitting the video game department on my computer and just play for a few hours. Spend some time with my mom and dad because they're older. So I want to spend as much time as I can with them.
So time with family, you enjoy decompressing through video games. This is something I wanted to ask you. I'm so glad that you segued into it on your own. What are ways that you like to spend your free time so that you can decompress and kind of, as you said, you have difficulty sometimes shutting off your thoughts and all
Yes.
of the work and all of the projects you have going on.
Mm-hmm.
So other than the games and family, are there other little tips you have for people of ways to try to take a break from that hyper focus and really make sure that you are getting the rest and rejuvenation that you need?
Go out for a walk. Go out to the mall. I take the bus. I take a bus all the time. Like I'm always out on the bus myself. I'm always going to the mall, coming back, taking a different route back to the house here, and it's just I go out for walks. I go to the store, get my favorite drink. I do all kinds of different things that will really rejuvenate myself, and then it really helps out.
And I know that you've had some evolution in your podcast. And it's one of the things that really inspires me about you is that you are always trying new things. You mentioned to me now you have the green screen for the show,
Yeah.
that was something new. And you are always trying new formatting, new content, new creative ideas. What inspires you to always evolve, to always be changing and trying new things?
I don't want it to be boring, like I want to try new things out, and I'm going to be actually learning to do some kind of pop-up my newsletter, or I'm going to find a way to put my newsletter in there on my site. That's the next big project for me, is to start coding that to the site. But I love trying new things, and like if I don't know what it is, I YouTube it. That's what YouTube is all about. Like it's awesome tool. Google, it's another good example, because I love using Google. It's just I can learn so quick. Like, okay, I have the coding, how it's going to work. Now, how do I implement it to my own website, for example? So I'm always, innovating, coming up with new ideas. I'm always tinkering with my website all the time. So, like, I'm always tinkering, whether it's the website or it's, the podcast. Because recently we just had our, what's it called? I have an affiliate now with Entertainment Man. So now I got to advertise that on the podcast. So, and then I just came up with an idea how to promote my coaching too. Is put a mid roll in there with me talking. Yeah. So, but again, there you go. I'm reinventing everything right there. So.
Exactly. Well, and that really, if you listen to the Entertainment Man podcast, not only do you get to see in real time how that happens, but something else I think is really special about your podcast is not only are you always evolving and changing, but you're very open and vulnerable about the process. So we get to hear your thought process, why you're thinking of trying something new, the pros and the cons. And I think for someone who is considering trying something new in life, whether it's something with their podcast, their media group, or just trying a new habit in life, I think it's helpful to hear someone else's process and also not feel alone in trying these new things.
For sure. Yeah, I'm a little scared. I'm worried. I stress out, and the occasion time I'll start having I've actually had anxiety attacks recently too. So,
Mm.
over a lot of these things. But, I went upstairs, laid on my bed and just breathe through it. And actually, I had to have Sarah calm me down the last time around. So, but she's been awesome. I think another thing with being like re-involving and reinventing all this is I have a fantastic team behind me. Like, they are amazing. Like, Sarah, Kevin, Larry have been so amazing, so supportive through it. Yeah, we have our occasional fights, but that's it's creative differences. We all have our creative differences in the process too.
If you never have disagreements, that probably means there's a lack of transparency and honesty.
I agree. And I think with the reinventing, like we've really learned the communication part. Like, communication is key, and I talked about that on my podcast. So it really has helped out with communication. We've been communicating a lot better than we used to, and I was taught by Alan from Next Level University, which I'm actually a big part of their community. Big shout out to those guys. But he taught me how to be a transformational leader, and it's really helped a lot too.
Yeah, I think, honestly, and that speaks to just coaching in general, how helpful it is in our
Mm-hmm.
own growth journey. And I
Yeah.
like how you highlight the benefits of growth, but that there were pain points along the way. We call
Mm-hmm.
those growing pains. So if you never
Yeah.
have pain, does that mean you're not growing? And is that okay with you? Right.
Right. Exactly. And what our former COO, she ended up quitting. Like, and I was just starting to freak out, and like, now what do I do? Like, who's going to be my right hand? And Sarah came along and she took over, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think often the big changes in life that we have no control over, if we kind of try to sink our claws into things and not let
Yeah.
them go
Yeah.
because we're afraid of what comes next, which is a normal experience to have that fear, to have that anxiety.
Yeah.
If we dig into it, it just makes that suffering period, that messy period, just longer. Whereas if we
Mm-hmm.
release it, we just create a space for something new to come in. And I recently heard a very prominent business person talking about how he and his wife is not someone who works in his business. But whenever he does a major hire, like whenever he hires someone important on the team or buys a new building, whatever, something really big, he always gets her blessing. And if they hire someone and she would say, I don't know what to tell you, but no, this is Dave Ramsey, his wife. I don't know what to tell you, but there's something's off, you know?
Yeah.
And no matter how good that person's resume was, he wouldn't hire them. Or if they needed to leave the team, no matter what, he would let them go because he really respected her intuition. And funny enough, the story he was telling was he had really wanted to hire someone, had a wonderful background, was just an absolutely beautiful person inside and out, beautiful family. And his wife said, no, I don't know what to tell you other than no, we shouldn't hire this person. And so he tells the story that he told them, I'm really sorry. Uh, we can't hire you now, but it's not a forever no, but something's not completely in alignment right
Yeah.
now. Right. So I'm going to say a pause on this. And the gentleman called him days later and said, you won't believe this, but someone called me and offered me a job with twice the salary. And so, had Dave Ramsey not listened to his wife and offered this person the job, they might have missed the thing that was really meant for them.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when we have these changes in life and we try to kind of go against the grain and just hold on to a sinking ship if it's someone who really needs to leave the team, or try to force someone to join the team that's not a good fit.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody.
It doesn't. For sure, it doesn't. And I'm very, very happy with Sarah. So, she's been my rock and my right hand on everything. She's always so interactive with the community. And like, I can't always be there to interact with the community. So it's good to have a team. I'm very blessed for that.
A functioning, efficient, agile team is really key to success in what we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when we introduced you to some of our listeners who may not be familiar with your work, we mentioned that you were diagnosed with autism as a
Yes.
young person. And now, looking back at your long career in entertainment, what do you think are some unique challenges that you've faced and continue to face, as well as some strengths that you have as an individual with the diagnosis of autism in this industry?
I would say a lot of frustrations. Like I do get pretty frustrated with a lot of the work. Like, oh, this is not working. Why is the website all messed up? And it's like, I get frustrated. I bang my fist on the table or the wall here, which is eventually made of wood, thank goodness. But a lot of frustration is one of them. Is frustration. I kind of sometimes I'm negative about it too. Like I'll have negative thoughts, and I'm been trying to reinforce positivity through my through my through my head. Like it's just I've been trying to think positive more than negative. So it's work in progress.
Hmm. So there are little things that you find that you as an individual, and I think,
Hmm.
these are also things that many of us have
Yeah.
issues with, our emotional regulation, and maybe ways that aren't the best way to do something.
Hmm.
And many of us just keep doing things not the
Yeah.
best way. Whereas some of us who really want to grow, they say, over time, this still working for me? Is this thing that I learned? Often we learn these things in childhood
Yeah.
and we're still doing them out of habit. Is this serving me? No. What do I want to do about it? And you're so active about really trying to work on those things.
For sure. And before it was a team issue when I did the video project team way back in the day. It's just I couldn't control them. Like everyone was out of control, and it was just like the communication was not there. So
Hmm.
it was just now it's just different. And I used to have a lot of outbursts back then too, growing like doing the media stuff for all these years. Like I used to have outbursts. I used to curse a lot, and it's still on YouTube somewhere. On YouTube, it's still there. But I look back and like, wow, I've changed a lot since then. So
Hmm. What do you think was the vehicle for change from then to now?
I think it was just I didn't want to put that same persona on myself like I was. I was a wild, rambunctious kid on YouTube and doing like video projects and all that, and I wanted to be a little less mean, this meaner on myself. Like I wanted to, just change the way I do things, and I think the fact I had Larry and Justin on the team, I think that did a lot for us too. So that did a lot. Having the same two guys that started this adventure with or ended the other adventure with the other team coming on to ChrisBontheWeb Media has helped a lot, and we worked really well over the years that they were still with me.
So always growing, bringing new people, new perspectives in, and also just being really introspective yourself and
Yes.
responding and changing and growing. That's so inspiring, Chris. Speaking of inspiration, what inspires you when you are coming up with new content? I mean, you've been doing this for a really long time. You've had many different projects over the years. I believe Power Rangers was a big inspiration for you earlier in your
Yes.
career, and then you since moved on from that. What inspires you for making content for your Entertainment Man podcast and for your media group?
So Entertainment Man, I think a lot of inspiration, again, it goes back to NLU, Next Level University. So a lot of inspiration behind, because I'm an avid, follower of theirs. I do their monthly meetups with them. I watch the podcast, which I'm going to be watching it after this. So like, they get me thinking. I'm like, that's a good idea. And also, not just online, but my friends around me, like Larry and Justin and Eric. They all inspire me to come up with some new ideas. So it does help a lot. When I'm ever out with Eric, like we're usually taking the bus around the region and all that, we're traveling and we're talking about something like, that's a great idea. I'm going to use that as a podcast. And that's a lot of the inspiration. But as for the CBLTW show, which is my TV and movie podcast, I think it just shows that Larry and I grew up with, like Power Rangers, which we may end up coming back for the reboot eventually. We don't know yet. But, we're doing Ghost Rider right now. And it was something that we watched as a kid. So we're kind of doing nostalgic kind of shows that we love. So that's where the inspiration kind of comes from, is our childhoods.
I think that's such a wonderful place to tap into, right? And that's in part, we share a lot of that on the show here too, is, what inspired us. So what inspired you, speaking of which, when you were growing up? And again, you've been doing this since you were, in your late teens, early 20s, really late teens. What inspired you to become the entertainment man?
So it started, Video Project T was the first thing. It was out of the whim. It was a media project for my class for high school. So, which is kind of funny in a way. It all came full circle 20 years later, almost 20 years later, as of December. But it was just a project, and we were supposed to do like a pilot clip for a pilot episode or something. And Eric and I ended up doing a whole 20-minute episode, so people really loved it, and then that's what kind of inspired all of this, and it kind of continues. But I think it actually stemmed back when I was on stage at my old high school, and I think because I love being on stage, I love the attention, so that was a big thing for me, was being on stage and being not the center of attention, but like, just it gave me a real high just being up on stage, and made me feel like I'm a regular everyday person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so inspiring. I just love this, kind of sitting here and picturing you being up on stage. Did you ever have a moment of feeling stage fright?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I did in high school. Like, I did a project for it was like a final project. We were performing monologues or something like that. And I couldn't memorize it all from heart because of my autism. Obviously, I had problems memorizing. Now I can memorize anything that I write. So, but high school, yeah, I was nervous, and the teacher's like, "Okay, Chris, you can use the script if you need it." So I'm like, okay. And I did well on it. And it was strange just being on the stage, though. It was just like being in front of the lights, and now I'm just natural because I got my two big lights in front of me, and it's all comes full circle, like I said before.
That's amazing. And to circle back to discussing your YouTube channel and how it has recently grown, which is congratulations on that.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. I know it's your goal to get 1,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube. So I do want to take this opportunity to have you share with listeners how to find your channel and subscribe to help you meet your goal. And I certainly encourage them to share this also with their friends and family, because it is such an inspiring show for sure.
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/@ChrisBontheWeb. That's our official channel. We have both podcasts. We do weekly videos on there. We'll do behind the scenes vlogs, which takes you more deeper into what we do behind the scenes here in the studio. So, which is really cool. But yeah, youtube.com/@ChrisBontheWeb.
I love it. And Chris, I want to see a short. You were talking about, doing more shorts recently and them getting
Hmm.
popular. And I do a lot of production. In addition to Talks with Dr. Shafer, I produce another podcast. I'm like you. I can't stop thinking. I can't stop doing things. We're
Yeah.
kindred spirits. So I produce another podcast, What's Up Young Authors, a literary podcast for kids. And I also have a production company, Little House of Dreams Entertainment, and we produce short form and long form content, short films, that sort of thing. And so I love this idea when you were talking about your studio full of all the sticky notes. I love this idea of before a show, getting the preview of what went into the show, the sticky notes and the you typing, and just to show your listeners how much effort goes into making a show, because I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, you just give me an inspiration for the Sunday video. A little behind the scenes look at what I was talking about with all the sticky notes, and maybe I'll stick them all to the wall, onto the whiteboard, and that way it gives you guys a sense of what I go through and how I prepare all of that too. And I got a lot of ideas now. You just inspired me.
That's what we're here for, right? We learn from one another and we inspire one another. And that's one of the beautiful things about podcasting is it's very
Exactly.
inspirational and it's very organic. And I think that's one thing that's really, really cool. And we get to have these longer form discussions than we would have the opportunity. I have a recurring spot in a local TV station, but my slots are 4 or 5 minutes long. You only have so much time on TV.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of podcasting, that you can have these longer, deeper, really wonderful conversations. And it's been wonderful having this with you. Now, we had discussed off camera, and I think we're both really passionate about something that's going on in the news right now. Last week, a Center for Disease Control and Prevention report was released, and it found in 2022 that now 1 in 31 children in the US were diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder by their 8th birthday. As we know, those rates have gone up over the years since they started tracking this. The CDC has attributed the increase in case rates since they began tracking the rate of autism in the population to increasing awareness of autism, as well as better identification in a medical setting, which can, of course, lead to greater opportunities for people with autism to access needed support, as well as just understand themselves better. This came out in the media, and very shortly after, RFK, the HHS secretary working with the Trump administration, then came out with a statement. And I will quote now, just so people who maybe hasn't heard, I don't necessarily love to have these words in the show, but I want people to understand what we're discussing here. The quote was that children with autism are, quote, kids who will never pay taxes, they will never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they will never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we need to recognize that we're doing this to our children. This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it ruins our greatest resource, which is our children. And he went on to make other unsubstantiated claims about autism being a preventable disease, stating that, quote, we know it is an environmental exposure. It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics, end quote. And of course, CDC scientists have come out to try to combat this misinformation from the HHS, stating Dr. Zach Warren, who was a part of this study that was released last week, noted that current science points to genetics as a cause for autism, as well as in some cases, the interplay of genetics and environment on a developing child's brain. So very different than the point of view that RFK was very publicly talking about. So, Chris, as someone who was diagnosed with autism as a child and who has lived a really rich, full, creative, fulfilling life, and you're not done doing
No.
amazing things, you're just getting started. How do you feel when you hear RFK's words, and what response do you have to his statements?
It's kind of disgusting because I was like, when you were telling me that, I was kind of like, oh, I used the toilet unassisted. Check. I I have held a job. Like I had a job for like a month. So that's long enough. Like a month is still better than, a couple of days or whatever, and, I've been on a date. My ex back in 2012, and it's just, I've dated people. I've dated people. I just choose not to, date right now. I'm happy, single, even though, Sarah and I are really close, but, still, I've dated. I've done all of that, pretty much all of that. So it's disgusting. It's really disgusting that statement would come out like that, because I think when I first was diagnosed, it wasn't as, what's the word I'm looking for? It didn't happen as, like, the odds of autism back then wasn't as much in the late 90s. So it's really gone up, and, we need more services out there. And actually, I had a, like, I had a meeting with a lady, and I'm going to be actually helping create different resources for autism here in Ontario eventually on her website. So I'm going to be a big part of that. So I want to make a difference, and maybe I should address that as a podcast. Maybe it's important, right? It's really important to, talk about autism, and I want to talk about the different types of autism, and that's even, fuel the fire more for me to, talk about the different types of autism, and, how important it is to get the proper diagnosis.
Yes, exactly. To understand yourself, to have services. We all need support in our lives. There's not a human being that never needed support. Frankly, when we're born, we needed a lot of support, every single one of us, right?
Right.
So, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, as a physician, especially someone who has lived a long life, having this perspective, because the reality is none of us get out of this life without needing support, with having medical issues that we're going to need treatment for and support for. So at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we need to work towards accepting and understanding one another and working as a community to make sure that this is a world where we all can live and we all can have our needs met, understanding that maybe our neighbor needs more today, but it very well could be us tomorrow.
Exactly. I totally agree.
Very well.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
I really appreciate you talking about this. I know it's really uncomfortable for me to even repeat those words.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, and I think this is really what you do with the work you do as well. From my perspective, I would rather not be combative or fight what is being said, because it's not true. It's a lie. It's not accurate. It's not based on science or facts or data. And what we understand about fighting lies is it takes a lot of energy, and it takes over 100 times more energy to try to disprove a lie than it takes to simply tell the truth. And the truth is, all we have to do is look at the exceptionally meaningful, beautiful lives of people like yourself with autism. And there are many other famous people throughout history who have a diagnosis of autism, or who, when we look back at what we know about these very well-known individuals, maybe autism was not a diagnosis then, but historians say they certainly would have met the criteria for autism. And these are people who have gifted us some of the most amazing inventions. They've done so many incredible things for society, and we are in such a debt to them. So instead of spending too much time and energy fighting the lie, what I want to do is to try to bring to light the truth. And so I really appreciate you sharing your story here with us, all of the work you do. And I think, again, something you do on your podcast so well. I encourage everyone to subscribe and enjoy it as well and share it with people who be inspired in your life. You really show the process behind your decision making. And I think that is really, really helpful. So thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable, both here on the show and in all the work you do, and being an advocate for your community. It's been so special to have you here on the show, and I appreciate you being a friend of the show.
No problem. And I always watch your podcast. As soon as it pops up, I kind of scroll it to the front of my list of things, so I watch it right away. So it's really awesome what you do as well. And one last thing I want to say is Howie Mandel's a big inspiration because he's got some kind of disability as well. So and he's in entertainment as well, and he's a big inspiration to what I do as well. And yeah, he could be a pain in the butt sometimes, but it makes you laugh and all that and make a comment. But he is, and plus he's Canadian too, so he's a big inspiration to me, though, for sure.
There are so many people. I have a list here. I'm trying to remember everyone's names because I don't want to share people's names who are just presumed to have autism but don't have a formal diagnosis. But I do know that many people have come out and said that they weren't necessarily formally diagnosed. But they feel like Jerry Seinfeld has said that he believes that were he a child now, that he would have that diagnosis. Anthony Hopkins, an actor, was diagnosed with what was called Asperger's syndrome as a child that now is included in the autism spectrum, which I'm happy to have this opportunity to mention because many people, even people in the medical field, will still say Asperger's. And so it's just a part of our acceptance and awareness, which is what the month of April is about.
Yes.
Around the world is having autism acceptance and awareness, understanding as our understanding of autism evolves. And so now we don't use the term Asperger's, we say autism spectrum disorder, or ASD
yep.
for short. Exactly. So there are many famous people with this diagnosis, and there are many of us walking around who don't have a diagnosis, but as we are better informed, we may see things about ourselves. And we may say, is this a part of who I am? Do I want to get a diagnosis? Now, that is a really complex decision to make, but it's certainly a conversation that can be had with your mental health professional or with your doctor. So if it's something on your mind, we certainly want to encourage people to be armed with as much information as they can.
Yeah, I'm sure doctors will, like yourself, they will give you all the information. And that's also, Google's pretty good too. If you can find the right, resources online, it's really good. It's, again, we need to definitely make more awareness of it, for sure.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Chris,
No problem.
and helping to spread awareness and acceptance of autism and sharing your inspiring life story. Everyone go subscribe to the Entertainment Man podcast and Chris B on the Web Media so that we get greater than 1,000 subscribers so that the channel can continue to grow and we can continue to get this amazing content from Chris B. Thank you so much for being on the show again, Chris.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much to our storytellers for joining us for this really inspiring conversation. Make sure you also subscribe to Talks with Dr. Shafer like Chris has done so that you don't miss any of the upcoming guest episodes like today's inspiring discussion, as well as we are getting back to our Mindset Mastery short talks on Talks with Dr. Shafer in May 2025. We took a short break and we are back to inspire you and help you on your journey of reclaiming your story and building your most beautiful future. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.